Bonjour, hola, and sawadee-ka, everybody. You are listening to Worldwide Tea. Is it an international drag race podcast where we cover every international season that is going on, and sometimes they end suddenly and you're only down to one season. Crazier things have happened. We're excited to get into it as we always do. And as always, I'm Evan Sawdey from Pot Matters.
And I'm Gregory Ellwood from the playlist, and you might hear me or read me, I guess I should say, in the LA Times sometimes.
And as of this week, I can officially confirm that Gregory Ellwood is a real human. He's not AI generated by the people at the playlist. I can confirm that. We finally actually got to meet in person since we've been doing this for 2 months. And of course,
Yeah.
where are you gonna else we're gonna meet at a drag show, of course, dag nabbit. And of course, it was wonderful. It was a fantastic time. It was good to actually be out in the world. And of course, we're gonna meet at the drag show. That makes
Like,
perfect sense. Obviously,
I
it
don't, I
was a
don't,
good
I
time.
don't, yeah, I don't know what other, what place we could have met. Like if we'd met at the supermarket, it would have been embarrassing or something, I guess. But you're freezing a
Exactly.
little.
Yes. And also, it was at Precinct, which, oh, well, yeah, it says my internet connection is unstable. Are we good? Maybe? Uh-oh. Well, that's not good.
Need to restart this. You are frozen, my friend.
Oh,
Oh,
goodness.
there, now you're
All
back.
right. Yeah, you just froze for a second and then you came back. So I'm not
All right, now you're
sure what.
back. So, yeah, but we might need
Yeah,
to restart.
yeah, I was speaking. You were fine, and we'll just cut it. Can you
Wait,
hear
where
me
do you
okay?
want? I can hear you now. Where do you want to cut it? And we should start again. I don't
We
want.
can just do right after introductions.
Okay, so was is that you saying this weekend we just met at?
Uh, just about the, or like
Okay.
just yeah, right after. Yeah, right after. Yeah.
All right, so tell me where you want to start then, because I
Okay.
feel like that got awkward. We could just, you tell me.
Okay, let's just say I'm Evan Study from Pot Matters, and you just
Oh,
said you're Gregory Ellwood from the playlist. Good.
got it.
3, 2, 1. And I can confirm that Gregory Ellwood is not AI generated because we actually did finally meet. Of course, at all places at a drag show, and actually at all places it was Precinct, which, if you remember from our conversation with Kyron Thrax, is the place that Greg recommended Kyron take their drag to when they visit the US, which is A plus. But yeah, it was a wonderful time. Good to actually see and of course support some local drag as we encourage all of our listeners to do.
Absolutely. And it was nice to actually, it's sort of insane. We'd never met before.
Right.
And we don't live that, we probably live within like a 20-minute drive in LA, which is, means like 5 blocks.
Yeah.
And but it was great to actually meet, and we saw some great drag. And Meatball, it was her fat slut night. If you are in San Francisco, Portland, New York, I'm thinking the other cities she takes it to. I think she's taking it to Philadelphia. She's taking it to Austin. It's super fun. Meatball is, it's a little tangent, but this week, Selena Estides did an interview where she said Rue girls aren't, can't find gigs and can't make money. And by the way, it's true. It happens. Like, it's hard to find work. And Meatball's an example of you don't have to be a Rue girl and you can make a living as a drag queen. And you
Mhm.
just have to hustle and you have to do nights, and you just have to, it's not going to be given to you on a silver platter, which I'm not saying that's what Selena said, but it's a great night. And if it comes to your city, you should 100% go. If you don't want to stay for the food eating contest, you don't have to stay. You can always.
Yes. Which was described to us as a food fucking contest when we were there, and that was, I think, there's a limited appeal for that. It was actually wild though because earlier in the week we saw an interview Nardwar, the famous, musician interview person, did with Chapel Rowan, and Chapel talked about how one of the most impactful shows that she ever saw was when Orville Peck had drag queens open for him in his early days, and one of the earliest ones was Meatball, and her
Mhm.
seeing Meatball open for Orville was like, well, that's what I have to do. And now she has drag queens open for her at every gig on her show that she ever does worldwide, which is like, that's how you do it. That's fantastic.
I mean, I hope that she keeps doing that. I hope her management keeps letting her do that. When I hear stuff like that, it just gives me hope as we move forward into the rest of the next decade. That's all I'm gonna say. But we have winners this week, Evan. We have
Yeah.
winners.
Who knows? Maybe people stand of international season. I don't
Maybe.
know. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. All queens who could potentially, but we do want to mention that in this House of Love, we do believe that all drag is valid and no queen ever deserves online hate. And as American entertainment journalists, we may not get every cultural reference, but we do always appreciate corrections. And there are some truly great queens who simply aren't good at drag race, but we celebrate them all the same, which is good because when they started trotting out some of the queens from our two finales that happened this week, I'm like, oh, that's right, you were on this season. I kind of forgotten for a hot second. But either way, it's a wonderful time. We've been recapping these shows since they started. Greg, you are in the driver's seat. Where are we heading to first?
We are going to Asia and for Thailand. Yes, it has finally come to an end. Drag Race Thailand season 3, the most anticipated by hardcore fans. They were so excited for it, and now it is over. And what a finale it was. What did you think, Evan?
So my first question, because Greg, you're a little bit more on the ground for this. I'm just genuinely curious. What has the fan reaction to the season been?
What fan reaction? Like I am not being catty. I am, I think I posted this on somewhere. I said, if a drag Thailand queen is crowned, will you hear it in a forest? Like it is. Someone was even telling me that World of Wonder barely even promoted it on their social medias, which is
Mhm.
strange. Maybe it was delayed or whatever, holidays, you never know. But I it is. I would love to know what World of Wonder, which paid for this season, there was no partner, no like broadcast partner in Thailand, what their, post-mortem sit down Zoom, like, what do we think moving forward? Do we invest in a season, in another season is? Like, I'm super curious.
Right, because the thing is that even with this finale, there was still I'm getting an unstable connection real quick.
Sure. I was getting it before, now you're good.
Okay, cool. Uh, the thing is that this whole season, it still felt cheap.
Mm.
It still felt just not like this the standards that we're used to. And I think there was, I think, as you pointed out before, truly interesting narratives that were going on. I mean, I think the biggest thing, as we remember, is the fight with Tian Pushi. So, like that's unfortunately my biggest takeaway from the season, outside, of course, the reigning power of Frankie Wanga, and of course, the two at least one of the other top queens, ZP, who I felt like genuinely deserved to be there. I also thought Nani Safira deserved to be there, but that's about it in terms of what we had in the finale. So overall, not my favorite season. I think like I was like a lot of people, and I think like you, I was excited for it. And then it was the production value certainly didn't help. And I also feel like Pin China maybe too late in the season because in the last couple episodes she felt a little bit more even. She felt a little bit more keel, but it was a journey.
I think I mentioned this in our own last episode. I feel like there's a whole backstory of the production of making this show, that this feels like a show that was tough. Like
Yeah.
it was tough for everybody to make. And I don't know by the way, to speculate, there could be 100 reasons. And you never know. And I listen, they pulled it off, and they pulled it off in another country. And they did their best. And I think that the best part of it is that there's a great winner who is actually a great queen. I don't know if they were great in the
Yeah.
finale, um, but I did think that there were moments where you saw the potential, and there were moments that made you say, "Oh, this is the wrong direction to go in." And I just don't know how they'll move forward. We'll find out very soon,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I also will say though, it is interesting though because we had the returning queen back for the crown. We'll get to it in a second, but I'm like, because the show was canceled and not canceled, canceled and suddenly uncanceled. This truly might be outside of a show that's been like canceled, like, Holland or something. So I think that's a what, 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good reign. Not bad. But let's get into it. The Queens come back. They're real emotional over the non-elimination of ZP, how they thought there was going to be this whole thing. And I'll be honest, it was kind of the biggest emotional point of the episode because they did all the things that you expected in a finale. They had the sit down chit chat. They had the what would you say? Pardon. What would you say to your younger self? They had all the hallmarks so checked out of the season at this point, but I just didn't get any vibe from it. I didn't get any major story points that were significant or outside of the norm of what we normally get.
No, not at all. And it seemed a little kumbaya, which they had not been very much for like the
At
rest
all, if you
at
watch the
all.
season, right?
If you just were to watch this, you'd be like, oh, they all loved each other. They were all great, which by the way happens a lot. And I wish they would be honestly more on. Maybe some of them, maybe it is an inherent thing that when you get to the end of this sort of reality thing, and there are four people there, and you're never, you don't know who's going to win for sometimes 6 months or 4 months. Like it's a relief, and it's like everybody's just happy that they made it, and they'll deal with, you know what I mean? Like maybe it's just a natural thinking, but I was also like, really, you guys all loved each other? Because I didn't really buy it for a while, but okay.
Right. Well, and it's tough because there's no story anchor point. Then all of a sudden we go into our maxi challenge, which is you have to do the music video to "Bring Back My Girls" by RuPaul. But you're not writing any original verses. You're just going to lip sync and kind of dance for the camera. And it's like, okay. And they do that. They do the choreography. They get ready. They are on a set which has all of these different model mannequins that just have the names of all the fallen queens before them, and they have to kind of spy their way through it in order to get to the crown. It was like, okay. It was a very odd choice because you'll get to show what you've learned, what you do, and I learned jack shit about them outside of the fact that some of them still had some good looks left.
Um, yes, I did think that, for a second I went, okay, they tried. Someone on production was like, let's let's take this and try to make it a fun. It reminded me of like, oh, someone from the Filipino crew on the show was like, oh wait, we could do this and make it more like they tried to jush it up a little bit for that number. But also I was like, I thought Frankie didn't look good. I have to say, I was really disappointed in Frankie this entire episode. Um, and I still think she deserved to win, like hands
Yeah,
down, like it's not even a question. But it was a little bit like, well,
absolutely.
geez, maybe ZP should have
Yeah,
won. Like not for us to get ahead of ourselves, but it was a fine number. They all were good. Nobody was bad. And to be honest, the best part of the episode was the returning queens. Like that was I mean, my notes are all about them coming back
yeah.
and their looks and some of their questionable looks which, we'll get there in a second, but that was the best part of the show to me.
That and also I'll give credit where credit's due. Pangina's performance that she did before the queens went out
Oh,
on stage. I thought like that's a drag queen mama.
yes.
That's giving everything that you wanted in a finale. And it certainly helped that she had the zooms and the dancers, but she was keeping up with the dancers. That was not easy choreography. This wasn't Supreme Deluxe's Fuego.
No.
She really gave it, and it was really good to see.
She not only, no, she was great. She's a performer. She's great. Also, her song,
Right.
which is brand new, called "Winna Winna," you can get it on all streaming platforms.
Now on
It's
iTunes.
it's not bad. The chorus is great, actually. The lyrics are god awful, but the chorus is pretty good. And you can
Right.
see them using it in the future, just taking the chorus part. But she's also like, if you listen to the song, it's like, I'm a win. No, you're not, Pangina. You've lost every time. Like, you lost famously. And then you're like listening to it, wait, is it like ironic? Like, I'm still a winner because I lost. And you look at the lyrics and you're like, nope, it's like I got the crown. What crown did you get, Pangina? I don't remember this. So that I thought don't dive too deep into lyrics of drag queen songs. That's your advice for the weekend.
Yeah. She won the crown of hosting not only Drag Race Thailand, but also Tongue Tied with
Yes.
Pangina Heels, now streaming on WoW Presents Plus. With its There's low key because they aired the ad for it at the end of every episode. I'm like,
Good.
did they make another Thailand season just to promote Tongue Tied? Like that was there was low key that thought running through my
Listen, I'm going to tell you
head
this.
to be
Tide
part of it.
costs, tongue-tied costs maybe 1/10 combined of one episode of Drag Race Thailand. It is
Right.
not. They grab the heads up. They grab the queens from DragCon LA. That's when they do it. And gasp. So if and sometimes they're wearing the same outfits they're about to wear to go to DragCon LA, or they did that day or the day before. It's all good. And it's a fun. To be honest, it's fun.
It
It's
is.
her chicken shop date. It's pretty smart. It's her hot ones hot wing. What's the hot wing show called? Why am I blanking?
Hot ones.
Um,
Yeah.
Hot ones. Yeah. So it
Hot,
works,
hot
and
ones. Yeah.
I think we're getting
Hot,
another
yeah.
season.
Of tongue tied. Yes, I think
Yes.
so. That's absolutely what we're
Definitely
getting.
expect that.
Uh, Also, Trend Alert suddenly bringing in a guest judge for the finale episode. That happened twice this week. It's very interesting for to bring in someone to evaluate them on what is effectively their final performance. But sure, okay, love it. Christina Aguilar, I believe, is one of the larger pop stars out of Thailand, so there was a lot of love there. But let's get to the actual highlight of the episode, as you alluded to, the
Yeah.
returning queens. Because
Yes,
Mama, there was some great stuff that happened over here. All right,
there was.
let's let's dive into it, and let's start with the not great thing, which is, listen, I love you, dear. I do not know. It was kind of a muscle vest that had an arm kind of coming out over it and holding it, and then there was a little bit more like mustache tattoos. I'm not sure if I would call it good. It is memorable. I will say that much.
This is my note because it's what happened. I burst out laughing. I just burst out laughing. I was like, this you brought first of all, this is I don't believe this was their finale look. It cannot be. But maybe it was, and if not, bless. That's all I'm gonna say. But just hilarious. All right, you know
Incredible.
what, Sriracha hot sauce, you will be famous forever. You are famous. So wait, really quick.
Absolutely.
I don't mean to stop us,
About
but you
it.
are
Kara Might showed up in.
hey Evan, I'm so sorry. Just so we'll remember
Breaking
this,
up.
Jeremiah, you are literally like you are freezing and freezing and freezing, and I'm slightly worried now about now you're back, but I don't know what's going on. It's probably all your neighbors like home fucking streaming shit. Um, so I'm wondering, should we just go to audio for this maybe for the rest of this and see if that helps and just not worry about the video because we've got a long way to go and it's really hard. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like,
I could see you jumping in a little bit. One thing I was thinking is that maybe I could stop it right now and I could reset the modem and see if that helps with the connection at all. It might
we
take a couple
could.
minutes, but that is my only other thing because I don't want to put us in a spot where it's choppy choppy.
Yeah, I just feel like we're gonna get the audio and video back, and we are unintentionally speaking over each other because of the delay, like
Yeah.
badly. So
And up next is Kara Might. She comes in with effectively a fairy blue showgirl corset with a whole bunch of tulle.
it was
Can you hear me
pretty
okay?
for a second. Yeah. It was pretty. I thought it was an improvement for her, and my only thought was the zipper literally like popped in the back. You could like see it like when she turned around. That was, but for her, upgrade, like not upset.
Absolutely. That's how I feel about it. But Greg, I need to have a conversation with you right now over this one contestant that came over here. Their name, you may remember them from earlier in the season. Their name is
Okay.
Short Gun. And they came in. with this ruby blood and ribs look, with this bald cap crown thing and this hood, it was a fucking wow from me.
Love,
Stunning.
love.
Stunning.
I
I
was like, Shortgun, you needed to spend all the time you spent on this final outfit on your other outfits so they would have kept you longer. Like, this was great. So good.
Stunning.
Stunning.
Genuinely, like I think at one point we were going to put together our list of the favorite looks from every season, and like this is the finale. That's my pick is Shotguns. It's that fucking good, truly.
So good.
Yeah.
And also, you know how little people are watching this show because it is nowhere online. Like, nowhere.
And it's stunning. It's got
Stunning.
frustrating. Meanwhile, Benze Diva comes in with effectively a it's showgirl look. It is a feathered headdress. The thing it has going for it is that it is large. It is just gigantic, all-encompassing with white plumage all the way up and down. It's kind of hard to hold up, I think. It's kind of weighing her back a little bit, but for the most part, like we've seen it. I don't know. I'm not the most mad. It's just something we've seen before.
I mean, that's certainly a new illusion. Like, you don't want to look too close at the illusion because it's a little loose. But I liked the idea. I liked the idea that she was going for.
hmm Absolutely. Uh, our dear beloved Siam is putting the haters in their place with a red tulle tie dancer look with this gold shoulder collar and the flattest, longest hair that you've seen in a hot minute. It was. I liked it. I think it was a little messy, but I liked it.
I thought it was stunning. I agree the hair was not, I probably would have suggested she do it in an updo, but she was also, I probably trying to do something that played more to Thai aesthetics and also it's a little on trend to do the long flat hair, so I sort of get it. Um, but I thought it was stunning, and I just hope she can pay her rent. Like she's doing this, she's just shot a music video with Brad Hammer, who's like a guy who does drag queen music videos. And all I keep thinking is, girl, I hope you have a job that is like paying for all this because you are going in hardcore, and I hope it pays off because I want to root for you. I'm rooting for you.
100%. We show up on the podcast. Be here for us.
Yes.
Worldwide T podcast at gmail.com. Please, Siam, reach out.
The NDA has to be over, CM. Call us now. Call us now.
Then of course we have our beloved Gigi Ferocious. She comes in as basically a golden robot warrior, is how I would describe her look.
I thought it was her best look, hands down. I
Yeah.
thought she looked fantastic, and I loved the little stumble on purpose that she did on her runway walk.
Yeah.
She looked great. I was like, if this is what Gigi can be, like with some money and like some more time, like, yep, put her on this, bring her back. Like I thought she was great.
I think when I think about her run, I think about the underground, the ballroom girls that sometimes do drag and then kind of fit their aesthetic to do drag. I think for some queens, it's a very natural fit. Of course, our beloved Kiona from Drag Race France season 2. Here, I don't think it was as natural a fit. Between her and Nikita from Down Under, I really feel like they had to kind of push some things together to try and make it work for the aesthetic of the show. So this I felt like was her at her most natural, like aesthetically, and it was great to see.
Great, so great.
Yeah. I want your help here, Greg. I love writing the descriptions. I have the notes here, but I'm having a hard time describing what Nane Saphira's look is. I'm a fan of Nane Saphira. I like what she does. The best description I had was basically a pink fractured flower look that had a ton of details around it. Like for anyone listening to the audio version of this on Spotify or iTunes, I'm sorry because I can't really describe the totality of what she was wearing. It was very wild.
It was, I loved the top. The top was
Yes.
very easable. You could tell it was a flower. The bottom was supposed to be a stem. And I don't think the stem played,
Right.
it looked like two separate dresses. They weren't really, they didn't connect enough. And maybe to be honest, in person they might have, but it was stone to the gods. It looked so expensive, and that she, and again, she's a costume designer, and she may have just sort of, listen, it was the finale. She was thinking she was going to the finale. She wanted to wow, and maybe she just overwowed. But I still
Right.
love the top of it. I thought the top of it was stunning.
It was still interesting, and I still think that was one of the best parts of it because I mean, actually, truth be told, this is one of the best runways we've had over the course of the entire season, hands down. We've seen some finale clunker runways, and this was not one of them.
It was the best part of the entire episode.
Yeah, because then, Greg, we get to the top four, and I don't know what the fuck happened, but let's get into it. First off, I love my dear beloved Frankie. I get Frankie's perspective. I do. But to have your internal organs on the outside of your body and they're bleeding and that's your look, but they're not. They are look like foam and like couch stuffing with a
Mhm.
little bit of drip on there and it's all dried. It was like, oh, is that? And then the wig just felt so incongruous with the rest of the look. It was just a wig on top of this concept dress, and it was just like, and is uh, oh, that's it. That's what we're going with. I'm not sure if it was the finale look or the what I had left look, but it was not didn't have the wow factor that we've gotten from Sweet Sweet Frankie so far.
No, it wasn't. And in fact, what is so shocking, and granted, they had a couple months in between, is there was a live, a live viewing party, and they, saw the winner, and they crowned Frankie at probably a Pinjanas bar. I think it says where it was, and she looked incredible. Like she looked like a stunning winner. It's on her Insta. I'm not a conspiracy theory person, but in the back of my head, I'm trying to think, did someone burn her dress that she was supposed to wear? Did it get lost? Did it tear? Was this a backup for something else? This was this would have told someone I am a horror goth queen doing a finale, not Boulay Brother, not Dragula, but
Yeah.
like that's my aesthetic. But she's only done that once in the other 8 episodes of the season. Like, and that was for a hair horror runway. She's never
Mhm.
presented herself sort of in this aesthetic. And then this, I don't think there was, I don't know if there was one stone on it, which, that's a very Kennedy Davenport like thing to say, like to complain about. But it wasn't glammed up. It
It
was
popped.
flat,
Yeah. Yeah.
super flat. And I
And
just,
dry colors, dry beigeish colors.
I am very curious what actually happened. But hey, maybe she thought it would pop and be different. We never know.
It was different, I'll say that, from everything else. Uh, as for the rest of it, uh, Godland, I'm a little bit torn because Godland comes in as full Marilyn Monroe cosplay, and it's the pink look from Material Girl Diamonds, Diamonds Are Girl's Best Friend, the look that we all know and love. The dress is different though because there is this really nice jutting arc over the slit in the front over there that gives it some flavor and some personality. And it's like it sucks because we've already seen Maryland this season. We saw Nani Safira's terrible performance in Snatch Game in this exact look. So we already have one repeat element here. We've seen this exact Maryland look before on US season 9 very infamously. And it's
This
like,
year, haven't we
yeah,
seen other international seasons this year? Isn't that a trend alert? Like,
yeah. Like, so it's not the first time we've seen it. It is a different take on it, which is good. I just don't think it's different enough. It's too hard on the Maryland homage to be unique to make it different. So I liked it. I like where she was going with it. It just didn't have the pop that I needed.
I thought it was a little too simple for the finale. And also, I was trying to get into her thinking. Was she thinking, "Oh, I'm I'll never make it to the final. I want to look good when I come back." Did she actually think this was a finale worthy dress? Did she have another dress or outfit that she was going to wear and she said to herself, "I'm not winning. I'm not going to wear that now. I'm going to save that for down the road." I just it was strange thinking to me. I was confused.
Yeah, it's she did look gorgeous. It
Yeah.
just felt so incongruous from everything we've seen from her before. That was the thing. It just felt like it was cosplay. And I felt like she had not really established herself as that kind of thing before. So either way, I was happy she was there, just not as strong.
Hey, you know what? Here's a conspiracy theory. Do you think Godlin and Spicy Sunshine were told by the producers, "Hey, you're not going to be the final two. Don't worry about learning the lip sync song. Like, just like, just heads up." And that's why maybe she picked that outfit. I mean, I'm not trying to create conspiracies, but it does feel a little like that to
Yeah.
me.
Well, and they kind of talked about a little bit too how, like, Spicy Sunshine being the lip sync assassin, there's no way she could have known. This is very similar to Mami Wata from Drag Race France, too. You've won zero challenges heading into the finale. I don't think you're going to have a chance because this isn't the same narrative that we're going to have for La Philippe for Electra Bionic, where they were still performing at a high level the entire time. This was still very much, you're still along for the ride, you just happen to beat out the rest. So I'm not sure if they were told, but they had to have known. There's no way Godlin could have thought like, "Oh, I have a real chance here." Like genuinely, I don't know.
They,
But either way, Spicy Sunshine, she comes in a red dress with this ruffled mermaid tail and a silver headpiece. I like the headpiece a lot, kind of this multi-arc thing that she has going on up there. The dress was lovely. It just felt like it was a very good dress, and that was it.
I thought it was a very pageant gown, a very
Yeah.
like stereotypical and sort of like cookie cutter a little bit pageant gown, which is fine. Like, listen, they're trying to get a lot of looks. My other only other thought was there were there were a couple mid shots, and I was like, oh, I bet this looks better in person. I bet she thought it would look better on TV. And again, you go on the show, you don't know. We'll say this time and time again, especially for first season girls, they don't know what looks good on TV, and it's not a judgment on them. Many great queens don't, and then they figure it out, and then they come back for All Stars and know what to do. And that was my guess. She probably thought it would look better.
Yeah. And all I can say is that I still liked it though, because on top of that, we then had ZP's look, which is playing into her love of burlesque. It is a silver corset.
For a finale, for the finale, I like ZP. I think
I do
she's
too.
a really talented queen, but I don't. Maybe she was just like, I want to be able to lip sync. I want to be able to do what I want to do. I want to be able to move, but I cannot think of a, and maybe I need to go back and look at Belgique or maybe Holland. I cannot think of a look that was this simple. It's funny that my thought immediately goes to Bob's tuxedo pantsuit thing or dress thing that he did for the season 8 finale, which she regrets to this day,
Yeah.
for the tape one. And that's the only thing in my mind is that, but I can't think of anything else like this simple for finale, especially for the final two finale people.
Right. Right. It was just so weird because this is our top two, and you have objectively the worst looks out of anyone here. Like, I'm not even kidding. It was just so odd. I'm about to sneeze. It's okay. We're good.
Okay,
Uh,
please.
yes.
Listen, it's a live tape podcast. We are human beings. Real
Ex
things happen.
exactly. That's why Alyssa Edwards is here, and she's telling me to applaud myself, and I appreciate her. She'll just say yes to any gig. You just ask her, she'll show up. It's pretty
Oh, no,
great.
no, no. If you pay her, she'll show up. Like it's not any gig.
Yeah.
Also, she might have been contractually bound to do that from last week.
Potentially, yeah. We'll see. She did show up at the other finales we had this week, I'll tell you that much.
Nope.
It would be very funny though, I would
Oh,
say. That said, we do have we have Miss Congeniality. We have to crowd that, so we bring in the Miss Congeniality from season two, Maya Bihalo, who, by the way, on her original season placed 11th. So it's lovely that she's back. I'm so glad that she's there. She seems to be in very good spirits. The queens had voted, and their new Miss Congeniality is Benze Diva. Uh, sure, great.
I thought Benzie was sort of a little
A little shit
dramatic.
talker. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wasn't she super mean to some
Yeah.
of the other queens? Like, okay, all right, maybe she's really nice back in Bangkok. Like, I'm not really sure. But
Yeah.
to make something very clear, Evan, she received a cash prize and
Mhm.
in US dollars, and I understand that things go further in Thailand, in baht. She got $434. Like that's what she won. 434 and a crown though, which many other franchise miscongenialities do not get a crown. The US one does not get a crown, but she got a crown, which is probably worth more than the 434.
I mean, truly. I mean, credit to her. Love that
Yeah.
for her. I'm trying to remember. Like, she didn't actually win any episodes. So yeah, she only had a high placement, or two high placements during her time. So good for her. Love that for her. Maybe she'll be there for the season four Thailand finale if they ever actually do that.
We'll find out soon.
Yeah. Hey, either way, it's now time for the moment. Of course, what would you say to your baby self? Blah blah blah, all that stuff. I don't need to go over it personally. And then hey, we have our bottom two. And unfortunately, it is not your time, Spicy Sunshine or Godland. To which Godland had the exit line, "If you like me, you can fuck me harder." Which is certainly, you know what, she is certainly memorable. I'll give her credit for that. I don't know if I'm gonna remember Spicy Sunshine in the grand scale of things. I might remember Godlin. She was a little firecracker, that one.
I was going to say this, Evan, because I couldn't remember for a second. If you just took away their audio and did a print translation in English of what Godland said this episode and what Freya Armani said in Down Under, could you spot the difference? Because
Never seen them in the same room together.
if you put, unless if they weren't in the same room, would you be able to? Because there was some delusion in here about coming back and this isn't the last of me. And I get it. You're young, you believe it, and I hope it happens. But
Yeah.
we can get into that when we get to Down Under too. But anyway, I am happy for Godland that she had this fun run and you know um enjoy DragCon, girl. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say.
She'll have a great quarter
Oh,
booth.
great.
And yes, so our top two, unsurprisingly, is Frankie and ZP in their terrible looks. And they are going to do the song Pra Woot Start by Christina Aguilar. And it's a fun, cheesy number that they do. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure what I thought of the lip sync because here we have ZP bringing out all the stunts, doing the fans, blowing some stuff, lots of prop work going on. And Frankie's in a dress that doesn't allow that, but Frankie is giving so much face, giving so much emotion. And I think that's the thing where throughout the entire season, more than any of the other queens, even in the musical challenges or Snatch Game, Frankie always had the most expressive face out of anything. So I kind of give it to ZP, but like I could kind of see the case for both. I don't know, it was an odd final lip sync.
I thought Frankie was giving Shea Coulee at the season 9 finale,
Oh, okay.
and that I didn't think ZP was giving
Sasha
uh,
Velour.
Esther Velour, but she was given something, and I thought she killed Frankie. I thought, to be honest, and I love Frankie. I would love to talk to. I think is super talented. It felt like I watched it twice. Not that she froze, but that nerves got maybe the best of her. And maybe this song is just so out of her range of what she normally performs that she looked at times like she did not know what to do. And that I was for a moment I stopped and thought, oh wow, maybe they aren't going to crown Frankie. Like maybe because if anyone's been listening to our episodes or if you've watched Drag Race Thailand, and bless you if you had, there are other episodes where Frankie clearly won or was high, and they put her in the bottom, or they put not bottom, but they put him safe, or
Safe,
they
yeah.
put her high and didn't let her win because they wanted there to be drama in the season. And I just watched this lip sync and I was like, I was floored. I again would have to go back and really think about it. I cannot think of the last time a winner did this badly, even on an international season, to win the crown in
I
the
mean,
final lip sync.
I think about Jinx Monsoon and All Star 7 against
Yes.
Monet
Yep.
Exchange. Like,
But you know what? Even then, though, they edited it to do everything they could to make Jinx look better, and they did not do this here. They did not.
well, yeah, and let's also not forget what was said too at the time was for your performance in the lip sync and all of the season. And at that point, it's just like, okay, well, it's very clearly got to go to Jinx at that point if we're not actually going to base it on the lip sync. I don't recall Pangina saying that explicitly. They do
And
say it down under this week, but they did not say
they,
that.
they did not say it here. They
Yeah.
just no, no, not at all.
But before we crown our winner, we do have, of course, our returning winner from season two with the longest ever reign, Angeline Anang, comes back looking gorgeous in
Stunning.
a cheap
Stunning.
in a cheap dress where she's being eaten by a snake, which is like such an interesting thing of like this cheap ass little snake thing, and then of course this absolutely stunning mug back together. It is a contrast. It is beautiful. I love that she's back, but she seems to be having a great time.
she looked great. She was having a great time, and I hope we see more of her in the future now that we think Thailand's back in the mix.
Maybe. And hey, in case you haven't figured it out already, or we had already said it, Frankie Wonga, the winner of the lip sync, the winner of the season. It is such a no-brainer that she deserved to win this season. If we're basing it off the lip sync, no, I don't think it's necessarily you can make that argument, but just so clearly the thing, and I think the biggest thing about it is that I think about what you have said before, Greg, about how sometimes when it comes to picking a winner for the show, who is going to expand the brand of the franchise beyond the scope of just like the local region and maybe expand out into Western media a bit.
Yeah.
Frankie Wonga can be that queen. ZP is lovely and incredible, but she just doesn't have that it factor that you would expect from a queen that could break through. Unlike Frankie Wonga, who could compete in an international all winners and maybe not do terribly, you know?
Yeah, Frankie really reminds me of Maxi from Philippines,
Mhm.
where hands down the best, like out of Philippines had much better cast members this year around Maxi, but Maxi still was like heads and shoulders above them. There's just sometimes like an excellence. It also reminds me of Admira Thunderpussy on Drag Race Sweden, where you clearly knew by the second episode, like, oh, she's taking it.
Yeah.
You would have to like break a leg,
Everything else is just pageantry.
all
Yeah.
pageantry and fun. But I'm happy for Frankie. I hope that Frankie can grow their fan base and their brand, and I think we will. Ironically, or I don't know if it's ironically is the right term, but um, intriguingly, we will probably be able to tell by how many Philippines gigs Frankie gets. Because a lot of the Thailand queens have been going over to Philippines to do gigs, and it's a little back and also back and forth. So that'll be something to see. And I hope that the Thai fans around the world do embrace Frankie. There is out of the people who are watching, and again, I can't tell, it doesn't seem very like a lot, that there are a lot of hardcore ZP fans, and that's great. I actually was more impressed by ZP at the end than I had been like in the middle of the season.
Mhm.
So, but we'll see what happens forward. And you mentioned this earlier, and I think you're correct. Pangina finally got into a rhythm by the end, and maybe that's a good sign for when they come back. And if not, let's bring Nikki Doll to Manila to shoot the next season 4 of Thailand, because we need her right there, right next to Pangina.
Yeah, that would be lovely. And we barely even mentioned Araya was in this episode too, which was
Yes.
looking lovely, but again, not the most stringent critiques. But it's a finale episode, so I don't really know what kind of critiques they're really able to give. So
Yeah, didn't also stay very much.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
certainly there. If you had to give it a rating out of 10, Greg, what would you give this Thailand season?
Oh wow, I'm gonna get I whoa.
You plead the fifth, pass.
No, as someone who is very critical, and that's my job, I would give it a 4.5. I'm gonna
Yeah,
be nice. I'm not gonna trash it. It's not the worst season I've ever seen. I actually feel like there may have been a down under season that was worse than this. Um, but I would give it a 4.5. What about
okay.
you?
I was about thinking in that exact same range. There were some redemptive elements towards it. I just think that some of the challenges fell flat. I don't think the casting was top notch. I think some of the queens who did excel really did. But like, it's hard for me to think back to a truly iconic moment or episode. Greg actually texted me earlier in the week asking for a list of that for a future episode we're going to be doing about our favorite moments from the season. And it's like Frankie Wonga's talent show and then a couple other things. Like, it's kind of you know, a little bit of a mix in terms of what was actually most memorable out of this.
Evan, the most memorable thing of this entire season is when Nini Safira is in the makeover challenge and cracking up with Pangina. That's the
Yeah.
first thing I think of. That's the only thing I think of this season. I don't even remember Frankie's talent show. I'm gonna have to go back and find it, but I remember that. Like
Yeah.
that's what I remember. And also the hair runway, but that was last week, I guess. So maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Um,
Recency bias. Yeah.
but yeah, it's one of those. It's
Yeah.
one of those.
But you know what I am going to have probably a good time remembering? Because it is giving something, I'll say that much. Canada Season 5, Episode
Yes.
5. Uh,
Listen, they may not cast queens who know how to design or lip sync or do acting challenges, but they give us drama and we are here for it.
And I cannot emphasize enough. I cannot emphasize enough how much I appreciate the production of the show. Because for this episode especially, this episode is supposed to be a 90s throwback episode, and they fucking committed. The opening graphic was done as a VHS tape kind of blur warp. Every title that they had for executive producer and whatnot was done in a 90s font. Like they really like the crew really went all out on this one here from the onset. It's like, hell yeah, like that's the kind of buy-in that you just don't see as much anymore. It was really fun to see.
I mean, I was talking to a friend about this, and the thing about Canada is that, you know, they're running out of queens. Like it's a country of 30. We Evan and I actually ran into a friend of we were with a friend of mine at Precinct. We were talking about this, and he's Canadian. He's lived in Toronto. He actually gave us some tea about Minnie Wang that we should
Mhm.
bring up later. But no, but I they're running out of queens. But again, this show won 8 Canadian Emmys, whatever the Canadian Emmy. It's
Yeah.
not the Emmy. Just last year, like the production, they try. The lighting is questionable, can still. Um,
Hmm.
I will just take that to, some strange, we have to use terrible lights for energy purposes in Toronto. But they try so hard. And, we're gonna post something this week on Insta of some of the best moments of all the seasons. So, please follow Worldwide Tea Podcast on Instagram to check that out. And I was rewatching the Tongue Pop number from Canada versus the World, which, by the way, shot at the same time as the season. And it's just so good.
Yeah.
It's just so good. So when they have great queens or really super talented queens, you see how good the show is. And that's why I think last season was in many ways really good because the queens were a little bit better than this overall.
Right, but it is the kind of thing too where I will say the fact that, and I've talked about it many times before, the challenges from Canada, they've made the show their own. The
Yeah.
Golden Beaver is permanent, like that's a big deal. Like the challenges are always unique, sometimes a little over ambitious, as we discover with Snatch Game the musical, but for the most part, like they are trying new things, and because they're doing such format breaking things, they're actually doing a pretty good job of taking sometimes mediocre or okay queens and pushing them outside of their comfort zone because when you do that, you get good TV. And immediately from when we get into this episode, it is amazing when Michaela is, when Uma's actually cleaning off the mirror and everyone says you're doing it like a white person, to which Michaela says, I'll take you to the hood later, which is incredible. But it is still a lovely episode because it's all 90s based, and we start off with the Showcase Showgirl mini challenge, where they have to explain multiple 90s products, including a thigh machine, a fax machine, and an inflatable
Wait,
couch.
wait, Evan, do you know what that was? They didn't know what it was.
The
I
Ab
did have to
Master.
Google it. Did you know what the thigh thing was?
Oh yeah, the Thigh Master. Yeah, no, I remember seeing those videos back in the day. I
Yeah.
did wasn't like Uma and put both prongs in my mouth. I didn't do that when I saw that, but it was still wild to see how many people truly didn't know. And again, we're slightly older people. We've seen our share of Drag Race back in the day, but still, sometimes it's just the oof, the youth.
And also, some of them aren't that young. Like, and I was like, okay, and I did think maybe, are you just playing this up because you don't want people to think you're as old as you are? Like
Hmm.
I did, there were a couple times where it was like, Minnie, you know what this is. Like,
Yeah,
stop. But anyway, I thought that challenge was so fun.
it was
Again,
so
an
fun.
example of Canada embracing what their theme is, and they really went for it. I actually thought the Queens could have made it funnier, but the setup was so good.
Yeah.
Tracy was ready to like Tracy was all in on it. She knew what was going on. She actually had a couple funny interactions with them. She's getting better. It's incremental. Like every
I
season.
think she's getting closer and closer to having a real personality, and we love to see it. It's the curse will finally be broken. I'm very excited.
Listen, Evan, when you go in and you do all those junkets week after week after week, it just dumbs you down. It's like chlorophyll or it's like a Xanax. It's just she's breaking free of the studio network junket press.
But Xanax is competing this season. I thought I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But either way, it's a really fun challenge. Uma God wins, and I think kind of justifiably shows she does the most
Yes.
with the material that she's given. But yeah, really, really fun challenge
I
overall.
did have one quick thing. Why was that inflatable couch a 90s thing? Like I didn't understand that.
Right. It felt like it was. They did make a couple references to potentially being filled with water because water beds, I remember, are more of an early 90s thing, but I don't think they could get a water bed, so this was maybe their substitute for it, kind of, sort of. I don't
But,
know. But
oh,
also,
yeah,
water beds are more of a 70s thing, so
it
I
was a
don't know.
70s thing, yeah.
Yeah, so who
Also,
knows?
random, because I was somewhere and someone we were like looked at something and someone thought it was a waterbed and I was like, all I kept thinking is like, did people have bad backs in the 70s and 80s because of waterbed? Because it's bad for your back. Like
Yeah.
that's anyway. Random thought. Think about it later as you drive somewhere for the holidays to see your family. Is
Yeah, and if you go to waterbeds.com, enter Worldwide Tea Podcast at checkout. See if that does anything for you. I don't know
please,
if it will. We'll find out.
we'll
Uh,
take the commission.
exactly. Hey, anyway, it's the Girl Groups Challenge, and they have two different songs, not written by Leland. They are "Duh" and they are "Not." And they "Duh" is very much the kind of saxophone intro one. "Not" is a little bit
So
more. Or
an
did I
eight
get that reversed?
very 80s. No, you got it right. The
Yeah.
first one sounded like it was from the 80s and not the 90s.
Yeah.
Also, it's the same song just in a different like style. I
Yeah.
thought the chorus is the same. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think they were slightly different, but it was still
Oh,
very much the same vibe overall.
yes.
Not vibe from Drag Race Down Under. But I just tossed them all out today. Either way, the girls break up into their own teams. So, Duh is headed up by Minnie Wang, Uma, Jaylene, and Helena. They call themselves the Backdoor Girls for it. Meanwhile, the song Not is given to Michaela, Perla, Virgo, and Xana, and they go under the name VMXP. And as they are writing lyrics, they then get to go into the studio with actual Canadian dance legend Simone Denny, who is willing to coach them on it. It is some fun times.
So, Evan, did you have to Google Simone Denny? Because
Yes,
I
I
had.
did. Yes, I did. Listen, I know what Love Inc. is. I realize that she was a part of that, but I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell you the name of the song off the top of my head, which of course, thankfully, is of course one of the lip sync songs that they did for the week.
So here's the thing about Love Inc. Not to just spend too much time on this tangent, but this is so this is a textbook example of how different music could be across a border
Mm-hmm.
when before the internet was really big. Although this band was like 2000, it was like the internet was burgeoning a bit. You
Yeah.
could there was iTunes then, I think. Um, so they had five Canadian dance number ones. Five. They had they already had a song in a previous season of Canada. I think maybe it was Versus the World
Mm-hmm.
that was like a top 10 Canadian hit. And this song that eventually is for the lip sync that they use is was like in the top 20 or something, or it did very well. Never none of this didn't even chart on the US dance. Like, and it is there are people who are in Buffalo, literally an hour and a half away, who never heard this, who had no idea what it was. It's just it is a little wild sometimes. Like it's sort of crazy.
Yeah, they I just pulled it up here. They ran from 1997 to 2000 was their run that they did. And apparently the song You're a Superstar did briefly chart in the US at number
Oh,
22. But for the most part, almost every single they put out was a Canadian dance number
but
one, and
wait,
three of them were
which
top
chart in
20.
the US? Which US chart?
US dance specifically.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole of like, what are these songs? Go down a US dance chart because I still to this day, even in the new Billboard rules, understand what that is. I think it's it is, I think it's payola, to be honest. Like, I
Yeah.
don't, yeah. Anyway, a whole other podcast, but
Yeah.
let's keep going. Sorry, I just
For
had
our
to.
spin-off podcast that we do. It was a fun time in the studio. Then we get to the choreography part. Xana has an incredible moment where she says, I feel really good about her choreography. And cannot actually say the word choreography, which is incredible. In the pre-performance workroom production, they have a discussion about sobriety, and then that leads to a series of disturbing stories about spiked drinks and that they run into at the time, and the queens looking out for each other too. Very sobering discussion. Glad they're having it.
I am so going to be the villain for this.
That's okay.
I I'm not again. The conversation was important and notable. Have you noticed? that one of the queens always has to add another story on in the workroom sometimes
I
of
can't say I have. Which one are you thinking of?
well, I felt like Michaela like adding that story at the end was I have to get in here too with something as well. And it was a little off, it was slightly off-putting. She was not drunk, she wasn't drugged, she was drunk, and her friends got mad at her for making out with a guy that someone else was a friend with or something. And that, she was embarrassed and realized she might have a drinking problem, but she's not sober. She's not in a what it was a very much like I need to say something too and sort of like add on to this combo. And it was a little it was honestly I was like, whoa, like this is a little off like this is too much. Like you didn't need to share. This was not what they were talking about. But
I didn't get that sense necessarily. I felt like everything, at least the way I read it, was that everything was still coming in as a place of I mean, it started with the discussion of sobriety that then led to the discussion of the spiked drinks as well. So there was a little bit of a mixture of conversation that was going on there. It did end very lightheartedly, of course, with I think it was like even Xana talking about like if you're ever in that state again, girl, I live nearby. Come play Xbox. We'll get you taken care of. Or I think it was Perla. But it's the kind of thing where I think there was that double thing of people recognizing they had a problem. There was a large number of queens in the room who were talking about how much they were recently sober, and then also talking about the problem of, drinking and or at least dealing with potential spiked issues. I mean, heck, we were at a bar this weekend where they still have to put up a sign that flashes "Watch out for pickpockets"
yeah,
every once in a while because that's a common thing that happens. So, again, this is I will say. Even with the way it was structured and the way it was edited around, there's been a lot of actually good conversations that have been going on in the workroom talking about some more difficult things this year, especially more than I think other years that I previously recall. Between this and the Indigenous discussion they had a couple of weeks ago.
right. The indigenous stuff was great. I was really down for a lot of this conversation, and then it felt I have to pop in here too. That's
Yeah.
just that's how I took it a little bit.
For some reason, it doesn't feel like she was struggling too hard for story wise because goodness knows we had Sanjina the other week who was jumping in for story wise, and also we have yet to even talk about Uma and Xana, who also are people who later this week definitely interject story wise and make sure they get their screen time later on. So that's
Well,
why like Michaela didn't feel especially egregious to me, but that was just my take on it. Yes, you.
well, I have thoughts on Michaela in the workroom. So we
Yeah.
when we get to that, like, yeah.
That's its own separate
Yeah.
conversation. But in the meantime, I briefly want to touch about how every single person on that judging panel, they fucking came for a goddamn night
Yes.
runway. Let me tell you, especially Brad with his shirtless jean overall look that he had there. And it's like, as much as Brad, I sometimes gives good critiques, and then sometimes it's just doing this while rocking out to a lip sync, looking like a Thunderbirds marionette. I thought it was good for him to commit to the bit, and Brooklyn looked great. It was just a
Yep.
good look across the board for the panel.
Totally agree. I thought they all looked great.
Yeah. So we get to the songs, and let me tell you, there is, of course, the backing vocalist, and I need to find out who they are because it's the same one for Tongue Pop, it's the same one for Flop, and all the other songs that they've done throughout the years. But the Queen's vocals were really prominent in the mix for a lot of it, and I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Overall, you could tell with Duh by the Backdoor Girls, Jaylene was struggling with the choreo, and Helena was there to help her out. The editing did edit around it a little bit, but it was clunky. It was really hard to watch. I thought Minnie did the best out of the group, but it wasn't even like that bad overall. It was just you could tell that there was some struggle that was going on with
Wait, who was the fourth member of that group? Because I thought they did the best. It was Helen. It was
Uma, Jaylene, and Helena.
oh, I thought Uma. I liked Uma's the best. I thought Uma's
Oh
lyrics.
yeah, her what? Oh my God, we're lesbians moment. Yeah, like she had several of the best lyrics, hands
I
down.
actually watched that and I was like, oh, she could win. And
Yeah,
then we get to the next group and I'm like, oh no, she's not gonna win.
never mind.
Never mind. But it
Yeah.
was it was a sign like this is Uma's thing. Uma does musical comedy like or comedy stuff, and this was perfect for her.
Absolutely. We then get to Not by VMXP, and that is a little bit more of an upbeat, a little bit more dancey track than the other one, and it is Michaela, Perla, Virgo, and Xana. And my God, having Virgo and Michaela in the same group, it's a knockout. There was no way it wasn't going to be a knockout. And love what Perla did for the most part. And I think Xana, she was probably the weakest of the group, but it was still a strong group, so it's kind of a bit of a struggle in terms of how that worked out, but overall, it was still very good performances from both of them.
I thought Virgo was utterly incredible, and if I thought she won the season from this.
She
Like
came
she
one of
also
us.
won. We will get ahead of ourselves, but they're creating storylines.
Yes, they are.
I thought she showed, oh no, you are top. This is top tier. And when Simone, the guest judge, was when they were doing the recording, asked her to do a run because she can
Mhm.
actually sing, and then she, in context, it was even better than what they had done in the fake rehearsal. I was really impressed. I was like, I think, like, so many drag queens try to sing, and many of them do it, especially overseas. That's how it's very karaoke-ish, but they sing. And there are some great singers. Jinx is a great singer. Monet is a great singer. But you heard Virgo here, and you're like, oh, whoa, like
Mhm.
you can do this.
Actually
And
do it.
yeah, yeah, this I was impressed, super
Yeah.
impressed.
Less impressed for me was the runway because the category was grunge and glamour, and it's supposed to still keeping within this 90s aesthetic. So the judges, to their credit, call out it's Vivienne Westwood inspired, quoting the great poet philosopher that is. Go
But
ahead.
Vivian was inspired by grunge.
Yeah,
Grunge wasn't inspired by Vivian. So when you say Vivian, it's like a self-eating,
it's
snake.
Ouroboros.
Yeah.
It's a fashion Ouroboros.
It's like, also, Brad, what are you talking about? Brooke, you were alive in this, Like, my biggest problem with this runway, which I thought there was, and by the way, we go through all of them, some great stuff. Grunge ended in like 94.
Yeah.
Like, grunge was not the entire decade.
Mhm.
And I felt like the Queens going towards that was like slightly shocking. And I'm sure the producers were not expecting them all to focus on grunge. There was no hip hop, like, TLC stuff. Like, I thought there could have been a whole other way to go. And there was one queen who realized, oh, I could do something different, and we'll talk about that. But
And they got punished for it.
I was sort of shocked, like, that it really went in this direction.
So the thing is that when I'm thinking about it, when you think about grunge and glamour, okay, there is certain that you can stuff you can do with that, but literally everyone went with tartan. Like there was only like one or two queens who did not have anything tartan slash flannel as part of what they were doing, and those queens stood out the most because a lot of it just kind of blended together. So in that sense, too, it seems like a good topic on paper, but in execution, it's surprisingly monochromatic, which was disappointing. But let's get into every single one
Yeah.
individually. First off, Virgo has basically denim jeans and then kind of this tartan sparkle wrap. Off to a good start. Not my favorite look of the night, but overall off to a good start.
It was my second favorite look of the night. I need those stone jeans so bad. I am telling you, that was incredible. Like, the amount of stones on those jeans, if you saw them in a club, it would literally sparkle. That was so impressive. Like, I need those jeans, like, really
Yeah.
bad.
Perla comes out. How I describe this? So it is Vivienne Westwood inspired, but no, like legitimately. So it's kind of this almost see through. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Aquaria. She had this green kind of bull horn look in her season in season 10, which kind of felt similar to this. But this yellow skirt, kind of this floofy tulle bottom, see through sheer overall look, and then kind of the plaid panties, and then there's a lot of just like clothespins all throughout there. It was it was good. It just I don't know. It didn't have the wow factor that I was expecting from it. It was good.
I wrote, I guess it's 90s.
Yeah.
It's slightly inspired. It actually reminded me of Bimini. I felt like she was
Oh
giving.
yeah. No, I can absolutely see that. Yeah.
I will say this, as someone who likes Perla very much and feel
Uh-huh.
like she is not the fashion queen she wants to be yet, but will someday. This was her most cohesive look of the season. Like at least it was cohesive, and I was impressed with that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was very good. Meanwhile, Sweet Sweet Xana, she has a leather jacket. And it's over this white like this shirt dress thing, and it looks like there's some blue stab bloodline marks over there. Like I was looking at it, I'm like, is this Buffy the Vampire? Is this like that was the sense I was trying to get out of it for the most part. It was okay.
So she did say during her voiceover that it was a Buffy
Okay,
reference,
got it. Yeah.
and it's a wedding dress. She didn't say that, but you can tell it's like a wedding dress she found. She tore the front up so that
Uh-huh.
it had a slit down the middle, which was probably the Buffy reference too. I don't know. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a way to like I have 12, 14 looks to do.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna do this for this one, and it was
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Is she lip syncing on it later? Yes.
Yeah.
Then we get over to Michaela. Michaela. She is wearing this elaborate menagerie of jeans and ruffles, and they're saggy and they're stoned, and this updo hair. I thought it was a fantastic look.
Oh,
I thought it was great because not only did I still get grunge out of it, but it didn't have to result to plaid or tartan in order to get its point across, and it was just gorgeous by itself. Anyways, yeah,
I wrote super great, like so great. And the Simone influence, this is why Simone is a great winner. This
yes,
is Simone
yes.
influence. Simone has cornered this drag, and also with her, it's her, but also her artistic director, Mark Monroe. Like they somewhere she like, raised a glass to what Michaela did because that was fucking good.
Yes. Uh, we then get to over to Minnie Wang with basically kind of this 90s cape. It's basically like this very much a lot of mesh, a lot of basically of course the bra and uh not leather. It's not fully leather, but it's really like kind of this black
Leather
plastic.
on the seam on the outs on the oh my God, what am I talking about it? I can't talk about fashion now, but it's around the edges. It was just leather on
Yes.
the edge of the fabric.
Yeah. And then still has the thigh-high boots and the short dress. I get 90s grunge girl out of it. It was the kind of thing where like there were details to it. It still kind of read as simple to me, but maybe because that's just the sheer amount of skin that was ultimately showing over there. She had this wrap over it with the kind of this like 90s like almost Madonna style hood, which I liked. And then when she removed it and went down to the dress, it's like, oh, just that. So I don't know. I was kind of mixed on it.
Um, so I thought this is why she wasn't low, because she's the only queen that did any reference to 90s supermodel. So that cape is a very 90s supermodel, Linda Evangelista.
Thank you.
It
Thank
looks
you.
very similar to if you see you can easily find the George Michael, not it's not the Freedom video, it's the other one, Too Funky. It's a close to that, and it works. And then she revealed, and I wrote more grunge, which isn't her fault, but what
Right.
she did was excellent and it looked good. It just didn't pop, but the 90s supermodel reference was what was the winner here.
Yes. Now, when we get to Umagad, here's the thing. The things that like I feel like we've seen a lot of interesting facets of her, and this is the look that's like, okay, I think we've hit the limit in terms of what Uma's going to give us in terms of looks, because this shapeless skirt dress with the puke green fashion color on here, you could make the argument for it being grunge. I just thought it was an eyesore. I thought it was just an absolute mess of a thing where it's like again, there's the part of me that thinks, okay, the color choice is deliberate, and then there's that other part that me that says, but also this is what you're wearing, this is what you're showing off. Like I don't know, it just felt it wasn't my favorite to put it lightly.
I don't want to say that Uma overthought it because I liked what she was trying to do. She said in her voiceover that this was Courtney Love inspired. I watched it again before we did this podcast, and I was like, just the runway part, and I was like, I see it. I see that's very Courtney Love, like from the night. That's what Courtney would wear, but it doesn't work on your body. It doesn't work on your shape, and it looks bad. And I think one of the things over the past couple episodes I've realized about Uma is a super talented queen and has great, great ideas, has been doing this for a while. but somehow does not always understand how her body looks in certain looks and doesn't always flatter her body because she's comedy queen. I get it. But if you really want to be on this level, you have to do that. And even Ben de la Creme and Jinx and Hannah Conda, like these are queens that and Ginger Minge, like these are not these
Uh,
are queens with unconventional body types that well, not Jinx anymore, but they figured out a way to do what they wanted to do, but to look flattering. And I feel like that has gotten a little lost in Uma's drag. But maybe she'll see herself on TV and learn from it.
Yeah, I would agree. Uh, to that end, Helena Poison, man, jeans on the runway, baby. That is what we are giving. Jeans on the runway and tons of plaid, just kind of draped, almost like it was almost hanky code with the sheer amount of it, but it's too long to be a hanky, obviously, because we already had a Frankie code runway earlier on in some of the international seasons that we covered. It was that kind of thing where it's like it was good and I wanted more from it.
So what I wrote, I do again, we have the tea that Brooklyn might not be a big fan of Helena, but I did feel like she was sadly being slightly judged on a curve here.
I would agree, yes.
I thought the top was literally built out. This was made for this runway. This wasn't just finding some grunge stuff, putting it together. And the problem was, and she did not know this, is she has a sort of similar look competing from Virgo, which is
Mhm.
stone to the gods. And there's not, this is why you thought you were underwhelmed because there wasn't enough stones on. It didn't pop enough with the pants.
Yes.
And also this look of doing the tartan sort of sort of trying to make a skirt out of tartan shreds has been done a lot, and
Hmm.
especially on the UK. And I feel like that's sort of got her in problems. I was actually thinking someone, Vulture, I don't care who it is, someone needs to write a piece before they shoot all the seasons for 2025 to queens to designers, no more tartan. Like we've
Yeah.
had this Vivian Westwood thing on every international season has got to stop. It's been burned to the ground,
Hmm.
or sorry, it's been dug into the ground, whatever the reference is. Sorry, but we need to end it. But I felt so. If you were to compare, I'm getting slightly ahead of ourselves, but there
Hmm.
was only two queens in theory who could be low this week with the whole Beaver crap. It should have just been two bottoms, to be honest,
Yeah.
but there wasn't. And I think the only reason why Minnie really got saved was because she did something different in that 90s supermodel thing. And I
Yes.
I feel bad for Helena, but again, anyway, let's keep going.
Anyways, Jaylene, here's the thing. Here's another one where it's like, I see the vision. I see what she was trying to go for. She was not doing grunge in the traditional sense. She was doing more of like a dark goth hackers kind of look. Which makes sense, if you think about singles, if you think about some of the other early 90s tent poles on here, this makes sense with that aesthetic. I think it's a good deviation of look for her. It is also a drag runway. And if we're going to hack that same thing at Helena about there not being enough sparkle, about there not being enough actually drag elements on there, I think you could say the same thing about what Jaylene's look is on here. Good idea, outside the box, not drag enough for what is a television drag show.
I thought the necklace was utterly terrible and should have been ripped off. Was
Uh-huh.
did not go with anything she was wearing, even if she was trying to drag it up. And I thought this was strange. Like she's done drag a really long time, or we think she has, or a relative long time. And the shirt with the jacket, it made her shoulders look uncomfortable and big and like shoulder like football pads and that's not how she normally looks.
Right.
And I didn't get the choice. I didn't understand. Like she thinks it looks great and she's like, this is what everyone looked like. I'm like, I don't know if everyone looked like this. So I felt slightly bad that she just misjudged like what it was supposed to be.
Yeah. I know. And that's unfortunate because as we find out, the tops for this week are Virgo, Michaela, and Perla. Although Perla was kind of an edge case because they're like, we like your performance, but we're a little bit iffy about the look. Like when I was writing down, I'm like, is she the top? I really wasn't sure until
Yeah.
like they confirmed it later on. The bottoms were Jaylene, obviously, Xana, and Helena.
Wait, and who is and Uma and
Uma
Minnie
and
was
Minnie are
right.
safe.
Right. So honestly, if I think if Uma had had a better outfit, I think she would have been high. I
And
think
if Minnie had a worse one.
yes.
Exactly. So either way, this leads to them declaring a winner, which is Michaela. If you're talking about the runway, I do think Michaela did outshine Virgo a little bit there. If we're talking about the performance, I think Virgo did better. But also Virgo has already won twice, so if we need it for the sake of narrative, we need to give something to Michaela. Sure, still love Michaela, but that's how it played out.
I will say that when they're in the workroom, Virgo's reaction and props to giving it to Michaela for the win was insanely classy and screamed to me of a queen that is very secure with herself, very
Mhm.
secure with what she does, and is not worried about any of this. And that was like a, oh, okay. You
Mhm.
you understand this game a little bit. I was very impressed. Virgo hands down won this episode.
Yeah.
Like it was
Well, and I think that's the thing where when you talk about it, and we talked about this just the other week about how there are queens who are there, think it's a real competition, and there are the queens who understand television and narratives and whatnot. And again, this is Virgo with that. Can see the table above me here. It's okay if I don't win everything because I'm here for another week. I'm just still doing high. Like you could see that. And in the workroom afterwards, oh man, Uma just willing to talk about anything over there, and is expressing her honest opinion how she didn't think that Michaela was necessarily going to be in the top. And this leads to a lot of back and forth and consternation. This also leads to the later discussion where, in talking to the bottom three and the Golden Beaver and all that, how Jaylene talks about how she feels recognized by being here, and Michaela sees her, and they have a very emotional connection. It is an all over the place kind of discussion that goes on there. But Uma is doing a lot of Jimbo in UK versus the World season one kind of stuff of just not playing the game. Letting them see their cards and just being like, oh, making some casual enemies through stray comments throughout the course.
again, Uma doing, yes, very Jimbo in UK versus the World one, but also Uma doing Ben de la Creme in season six, as I
Hmm.
said before, not realizing how what they're saying comes out in a room, but also sort of being honest. Like, came out, and didn't Uma say she didn't think Michaela was one? Am I correct? I'm for
Right.
trying.
She's like, oh well, those two are definitely in the top, and then this Michaela, it was going to be an edge case. It's mathematics, you know.
Yeah. And and I don't think Uma is trying to gaslight
Shady.
Michaela.
Right.
Anyway, I think she's just being she's playing it like a real human being, like you're playing a game and or you're whatever. And I think that this again was there was a moment that Michaela's reaction to this in the episode. I've sort of I don't want to say turned. I'm not loving Michaela like when she's I her she is young, and I keep forgetting that. I keep thinking she's older than she is. I think she's only 22. And
Mhm.
her her reaction to this, and also Godlands, like just to go back, like I
Let's
I
stop putting Michaela
no,
and
I
Godland
know
in
we
the
don't
same
want, but no,
bracket.
it's more like we've had a couple of super young queens this year on franchises, and it's made me realize, damn, Crystal Versace and Aquaria were so mature for their age. Like Aquaria had this whole moment at the beginning of where she's
Yes, they.
something unintentionally on season,
Well,
but it also got overblown up. It was not what she meant it to be. But like super smart. And by the way, I know all sorts of other shit about that they cut out of a storyline of Aquaria. Like Eureka was like being terrible to her that entire season. They cut it all out. And to make Eureka look better, but like Aquaria dealt with a lot shooting 10, but whatever, who cares? The point is Michaela, you shot this 8 months ago, but hopefully in context, I hope she realizes she has to be a little more control of her emotions, a little more mature if she wants to win.
mhm.
You can't win with this storyline where you are blind. How would you say she reacted in this workroom to Uma's comments?
She reacted very shocked, I think, and she took it very personally,
Yeah.
very directly. in a sense that not too, I mean, I would say not too dissimilar from how Sanjina. Every comment to her breaks her or makes her. Michaela is definitely a little bit above that. Let's not forget she also competed in Call Me Mother, and did very well, and quite frankly should have won that program if I'm being honest. But even when that finale aired for Call Me Mother season two, she then tweeted when they announced that whoever the fuck actually won it, she was like, "Oh, interesting." Like she tweeted that out. She was not afraid to be like, that should have been me. Like she had, it's that kind of thing where again, or do we expect our drag queens to be paragons of moral and class and whatnot? No, we appreciate sometimes them being bitchy, them being a little haughty, them being a little full of themselves. So for me, everything that she reacted to in that part didn't feel out of character for it. It felt like, oh, that's how you kind of feel with me and Uma backtracking whatnot. It felt part of a narrative that we've seen before, but I didn't think of anything that was egregious directly.
So the only thing I will add to that though is there's a difference between doing that on social media while a season is airing and a potential eventual winner doing that. That's happened many times to
Mhm.
reacting to an episode that they shot months ago and doing it in context of the show because the number of queens who have reacted that way while shooting a show, even on international seasons, is about winners, by the way. On one hand, I can think of Petita,
Hmm.
like that's she had a lot of conflicts and sort of set her piece on España season three. On I think the US winner who really was like this was Evie Oddly and
Hmm.
all the drama she was going through. And in theory, you could have said Jada, but when season 12 was a whole thing,
Different
they didn't
beast.
think she didn't think she was winning. They thought it was She Who Will Not Be Named. And then they shot the finale without it was a whole that's like the
Exception to the rule.
yeah, exception to the rule. And I think maybe Danny Beard a little bit on his
Yes.
season got a little like upset in the workroom, maybe, or sort of defensive. But it is rare. It is super rare. And I hope she stops for her sake.
And we'll see. I think she has a couple of
Yeah.
mentors in the room, and I think that her having this moment, I think, is for me, it wasn't too incredibly out of character. But let's also not forget, as we talked about earlier in the week, there was a clip that Canada's Drag Race posted that they didn't make it to air of Uma and Michaela talking about their drag mom Isis Couture, who Uma used to date in high school, and it's actually
Yes.
this really nice moment between them, and it's the kind of thing where it's like I know the editors are on a bit of a crunch, but like I would have loved to see that because having them have a little bit more of a tighter relationship would then have made this moment of slight conflict read a little bit more, or at least have a little bit more grounding to it of just like, oh, maybe it's not take it as serious because they established that they're friends a little bit more. I don't know. We could talk about it a little bit, but still, we know
Yeah.
the editors in Canada love being shady.
Yeah, they love it. But hey, it's why people watch. Why people like these seasons is the drama now.
Exactly. And by the way, we can also talk about some recent statements from some queens from our beloved España talking about they do well
Oh
not
my
work with
gosh. Let's do that
Angelita.
after Down Under. We have to talk about that really quick after Down Under.
All
Yes.
right, cool. We're taking up so much time. So anyway, Golden
Oh,
Beaver, it goes to not Jaylene or Xana. It goes to Helena Poison, which by the way was the correct choice over there because Helena was only in the bottom because she was helping out Jaylene so much. And everyone knew it too. So that was the right choice. That's what I would have picked if it was up to
yeah.
me. So Jaylene and Xana, they are going to Here Comes the Sunshine by Love Inc. And I not since the finale of Thailand season three have I seen a lip sync so okay, so mad. Like the thing is, we've seen Xana do tricks unsuccessfully in the episode Lollapalooza episode we just had, and then we have Jaylene who is emotive but isn't always the most emotive, and neither of them really brought it for this lip sync. I kind of didn't care who went home based on what we were seeing, if I'm being honest.
This should not have been a close lip sync.
No,
It really should not have.
no.
And listen, Xana can do the tricks, but rhythm is genetic. Like it is not taught. And somehow Xana is a dance performing queen. And someone, listen, if you're watching this and you live in the Vancouver greater metro area and you have any video of Xana showing her killing it, slaying it, performing live. We want to see it. We want to be wrong because I do not want to hate on Xana. I do think there's a good person there. We talked about it before. She helped Sanjina raise money for her breast surgery.
Mhm.
I but as a performer, I was like, I think I said to my friend the last night or on Friday night, I was like, I feel like I could beat Xana in a lip sync. Like, and I don't do that. Like, that's not my job. And I know that's what fans say, people who say we don't do that, but I'm like, I'm pretty serious. I thought Jaylene was okay.
Hmm.
And she did the
Lots
best,
of twirling.
but lots of twirling. And also I think you could tell from the workroom, Jaylene knew it was time. It was she was gonna go home. She knew that her run had come to an end. And I think the, I and she was very, didn't she thank Helena for helping her like in the performance?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
she
Yeah.
knew she knew that she was responsible for why Helena was in the bottom, like was low. Like I thought it was all, we all knew where it was going.
Yeah. So either way, Jillian leaves, Santa stays. Overall, a good episode, I would say. Yeah.
And a big tease for next week or something with the a different beaver or something. I didn't watch
Yeah,
it,
the
but
wooden beaver, whatever the fuck that is. So we'll see. Maybe it's you pick who's in the top. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
listen, Canada likes to have fun. They like to,
Like
listen.
mixing it up.
Yeah, they're
You
mixing
know
it
who?
up.
You know who else actually has a surprising amount of fun? I'm not gonna lie. Our dear beloved Down Under.
Yeah,
Because the thing is that they ended well. They overall stuck this landing, I would say. And I can tell you right now, Down Under season 4, episode 8, it starts off with the best reunion we've ever had in any season of Drag Race because it is a poster board that's glittered and it is 5 press and talk buttons with questions from the eliminated queens, and that's it. And
or
that's
back home and send it on a phone audio,
yeah.
like yeah.
It's actually incredible. And it's the kind of thing where even the queens are like, yeah, this feels about right. This feels correct. So yeah, the top 4, they answer some silly questions. They go around, they praise each other. Like it's one of the things where as much as it is, down under, I'm still not sure I'd call it the best franchise, but we talked about it at certain point, not every point, but at certain points, this may have been the best iteration of the franchise. I can now definitively say this is the best season of Down Under they've done.
I don't think it was the best group of queens they've had, but I
That is
definitely
correct.
think it was the best well-made show on a curve. It's definitely getting better. I thought Michelle was much more comfortable on the judging panel at the end of the episode
Yes.
than she had been before. I thought she was actually always great in the workroom. Like she knows how to do that. That was good. But it was a good season. I do really hope it's definitely coming back. I do hope that for the next season I don't know if they'll get more money, but they need to have the other queens come back for the finale. Like
It was stupid that they weren't there.
I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand it. I think they're going to keep cops down. They're going to shoot in the shed again. Um, but I definitely think that they made strides, and not having Rue really freed them up a bit, I think.
Yeah. They had, of course, in terms of strides, I think a lot of money they spent was on Leland to get their new song, The Biggest. It's certainly a
Sure.
song. Yeah,
So,
I'm sure somewhere stuffed inside Leland's oversized couch cushions was this song that he had laying around. It's just like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do that. Anyway, but hey, they do the song. They got to do the original verses for it, all that other stuff. But it was actually nice because they, for the choreography, Frisbee Jenkins shows up and does. I'm sorry, I'm reading that incorrectly. It's actually Electra Shock, from season 1, comes back. The robbed queen from season 1, Electra Shock. She's looking great. I love her. I love her little fucking fuckboy mustache. It's actually kind of great to see her, and she does tailor her choreography for each of the queens, which was actually really nice to see. They each, of course, have a sit-down lunch with Michelle, and the thing I liked the most out of it, I did, there was a lot of stories that we've heard before, so it wasn't anything too different. What did you learn from this competition? I learned how to trust myself. Great. Who gives a fuck? But it was nice to see one of them, I can't remember who it was, talk about how, it was very nerve-wracking to be trusted for yourself like this, much as I'm sure it was hosting the show for the first time, and for Michelle to be like, yeah, no, it was nerve-wracking doing this. And I'm like, it was nice to see that actual human
yeah.
moment for her admitting that, like, I understand this is crazy that I'm now hosting and it was hard for me, but like she was in it, like it was just human. It was nice. It was good to see.
I would say that one of the thing that popped to me for the most is if you're listening and you ever happen to be on a drag race season and you get to the moment where you're doing the tic tac or podcast, whatever they want to call it, sit down. I would suggest not saying you're going to keep your day job, like if you win the crown. I don't know if that helps you win. I love it, and I love that Queen said it because they love what they do. They love the creativity of their job. Um, I'm just being honest. I don't know if that's what the producers want to hear.
Maybe. Did that
Maybe.
end up costing them in the end? I don't know. We'll find out. Potentially. The song was like they had the workroom just the last time doing it. They had all that stuff. I didn't really have a huge amount of takeaways from it myself until we get to the actual song itself. Also we have guest judges showing up for the finale again. So love that. I love love these people meeting the queens for the first time and one of them's crowned.
Yeah. Although this is a great, actually, this is one of their better guest judges, Sophie Monk. She was like a random, like minor, had a couple minor pop hits in Australia, dance pop hits. But she's the host of Love Island Australia, which is known as one of the better Love Islands. She's actually been hosting it for quite a long time. And when we get, I don't know if people realize this when they watched it, they probably didn't. The song, the Sigala song, is actually the theme song for Love Island Australia.
Oh, that's
So it
awesome.
all made sense. So Australians watching this was a very like big Australian episode, and I feel like if you were Australian watching this, you really had a great time. Actually,
Hmm.
we could have had more of Sophie. She's great.
Yeah, it's like the Serene Fox, like the queen that you actually just want to have back over and over again because my God, if we have to deal with another non-critique from Isis Avis Loren again, I will lose my mind. They do the song the biggest. They all have their verses and stuff. They have a couple tricks. They have a couple flicks. If I'm being fully honest here, I thought the best performance out of everyone was Mandy Moobs as the pig. Uh,
I have to tell you, this episode, I flipped on Mandy Moves so much.
yeah,
I'd already thought a little bit like in like an episode or two before, like, oh wow, she's better. A better queen than I thought. Not that she isn't a good queen, but I was
right.
like, oh, she's more elevated than I thought. In this episode, I was like, there is an alternate universe where if other things had gone her way earlier in the season, she could have won this. Like,
Absolutely.
no offense to Iris, she's a better queen than Iris. She's a arguably a better queen overall than Spanky. Like, she's really good.
Hmm. And that's like it's the kind of thing where it does kind of suck that into these finales there's these narratives that are built up of like who the queens are. I know the WoW team is looking over this stuff, and this was shot in studio, so getting down like there's a thing where spoiler alert, Freya Armani is eliminated. This is not your time, and it's down to a top three, not a top
Yeah.
two, because if it was the top two, it probably would have been a lazy and vibe.
Yeah.
But the fact that Mandy was in play was a smart move because if we're basing it off of the season, Lazy Susan wins hands down. If we're basing it off of what happened in this episode, I don't know. Mandy Moves kind of really may have taken it. She at least had a fighting chance
It, I,
more than anyone else.
I thought if you were basing it on this episode, she had a better fighting chance than Vibe. Vibe was fine this episode. She did very well. But I was like, oh Mandy, like this is great. Like this, to be honest, you watch this and you go, some producer at BBC or someone the producing team at Canada will go, oh, we should call like we should put her on the list. Like
Hmm.
we should consider her down the road for a versus the world for in our franchises.
Yeah. I think it would be a very good. I think she would be incredibly competitive. I'd be very excited about it because like it's also the Mama Pig branding really came through in this episode and like was hinted at a little bit before. She had a couple looks referencing it, but here it really came out. I'm like, I wish she could lean into that more because I think that's an effective brand. So yeah. The category is after the performance, because whatever, it's the performance, is crowning glory, the best of what you got left. So, Freya Armani, by the way, she did a pretty good in the thing. She had a lot of tricks and stunts that she did during her number, but her runway look, it's this elaborately chocolate brown dress wrapped over with this very gold headpiece and like the crown, and there's some elements that are in the dress itself. Gorgeous, really good.
I thought it was gorgeous. I think she mentioned it was part of her, correct me if I'm wrong, her Lebanese heritage.
I
Am I
think she
right?
did mention that a little bit, yes.
And I will say, again, we have 8 episodes. There's only 8 episodes, and this is sometimes what happens when you have 8 episodes. I feel like that was law. I feel like she has a whole storyline that or stuff about her that was lost this season. And I felt a little bit bad until all her comments during the episode that made me not really like Freya Armani. But anyway, she looked amazing though. Like it was a stunning dress.
Yes. Lazy comes out in effectively a very fine, very typical dress from Lazy. It's golden, it's yellow, it matches her wig, and she turns around. Oh, there's a security tag on it, a giant ass fucking security tag on her. Is it the most amazing thing? No. Is it better than whatever Frankie and Wongo or ZP were wearing during their finale looks? Absolutely. I'll give them credit for that.
I will say this, even if that had just been the dress without the joke on the back, it was still her elevating herself, her look to for a finale. Like she realized she had to do this, if she wanted a chance to win. And I thought that was the best part.
Absolutely. Uh, to that end, we also then have Mandy. She comes in with this black dress with like these little silver droplets that are just kind of like lined and heading out around it. It's good. It's not as great. I like her pig look from the fucking performance number better, but it's a solid, it's a perfectly fine finale dress.
I thought it was a perfectly fine finale dress, but I loved the hair. I love she went with
Mhm.
this gigantic, massive hair, and it really popped next to everybody else.
She did wigs maybe better than anyone else this
Yeah,
season, if I'm thinking back
agreed.
on it. Maybe
Yeah.
Nikita. Nikita had some good wigs too, but I really, yeah, she may have been the wig queen. Sorry, also sorry, Lucia Innocence. I know you're a wig designer, but still. Uh, and then Vibe, man, it was an almost for me with Vibe because she had this. It was this very solid but incredibly flat black dress that from the waist down is boring as shit. And then in the top part of it, there's actually like the dress stops, and then there's kind of this see-through element to it. There's like some jewel-like tones that are running along here like there wasn't a huge focal point for it for me, and the fact that the bottom of the dress had nothing going on and everything was kind of sort of spread across the top, it was again, it was an almost for me. It was kind of which is kind of vibes look runway package altogether. It's good, solid, workable drag, but it didn't necessarily have the wow element that I was needing from say Freya Armani.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The dress didn't go to the floor, right? It was just to the knees. It was just like a skirt dress.
I
It go to the
thought it went to the floor. Let me pull it up here real quick. We're gonna do a research.
because I did think part of me was like she may have wore that dress because she knew she might be lip syncing.
That is, I think, potentially very fair. Yes. No, it did hit the floor. Yes.
Oh, okay, then I was wrong. I thought it was fine. She has this is like the second or third look where at the top she does focus in what she makes stuff or has to, it always accentuates the upper half as opposed to the lower half. So this isn't necessarily anything new for her, but I thought she looked great. Her makeup looked incredible. I thought she looked like if they were had got, decided to crown her, she would have looked great.
Absolutely. The one thing is that then they go ahead and they have their critiques. I think they have their, who this is if you're a child, what would you say? They do all that stuff too. A lot of them get very tearful and emotional, very typical. I will say the one part that I did like a lot was Mandy talking about you're going to grow up, you're going to be gay, and you need to embrace that. And then Vin Vibe, her top of her critiques is. You're gonna be just as gay as Mandy, which that was a great line. But either way, they go ahead, they go back into the workroom, and they do something that I fucking love. They actually test out their exit lines that they're
Yes.
going to give for each other. It was so fucking great. I wish they would
So
do
fun.
more of that. That was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun. Although I wish Vibe had been the one saying it to Lazy and not Freya because I thought it would have been funnier. But they were
Yes.
so good. Yes, it was really fun.
Also, them talking about like what their exit lines would be, and also or like what the judges would say to them. And I did like Freya talking to Lazy. Lazy, this week you were,
Yes.
uh, and it was really really great. They good vibe, good camaraderie overall.
Yeah.
They go down. By the way, the judging panel, was Isis's judging panel look the same that you wore for the runway for the crowning?
Yes. We just hadn't seen it from below her,
Yeah.
like or
She
the
walks out stage and like, wow. And I'm like, you didn't fucking see it 5 minutes before when she sat down. What the fuck are we doing here? Come on.
yeah.
She. Anyways, so Freya, it's not your time. Top three vibe, Lazy Mandy. They get to do a lip sync of "Come Here for Love" by Sigala. And they do the thing that annoys me more than any fucking in the world, which is it's in three individual lip syncs, not an actual three-way lip sync on stage or a two-way lip sync. What are we doing here? The part of the fun of a lip sync is seeing the queens interact with each other. I know a lot of people really harangue the US season 11 when they had the six-person lip sync during the Mariah Carey challenge, but like I liked the fact that it was chaotic and everything. Part of the fun is the queens interacting with each other. But whatever, they do three solo lip syncs and there's a lot of twirling.
I will say the only time it's worked was for Global All Stars. There
Hmm.
was four of them, and I thought they all brought it because they were all performers and they cut
Yes.
it really, really well. And also, though, when they did that, they had all the other queens cheering them on,
Right.
and that's not here. So
Hmm.
you're on stage by yourself in front of four judges just lip syncing, and there's an inherent lack of energy, which isn't great. Also, I did not think that this. I think the producers think to themselves, oh no, we're putting the queen in their best position because they don't have to compete against anyone right next to them and they can do what they want to do. Well, for lazy, that's not actually the best and most ideal like thing you want to do for someone who you may crown as a winner. And I did not think it served her well. But I thought it served Mandy great. I thought Mandy won this. Like she was so good in it. And it was I was like this I think I watched it and I was like, oh, I'm a Mandy Moves fan now. I now I love her. I want to see her perform. And Vibe was fine. She was good. She did her thing. But it did not flatter Lazy. And it wasn't the song, it was just she would have done much better if she could have interacted with the other queens.
Absolutely. And so that was the part that was a little bit disappointing, but either way, we get around to it. Ice again, it's also kind of you lose a little bit of the power when Isis is just like, here's a returning queen, and she's been here the whole season.
Whole season.
All right, cool, great. She's here again. Anyway, so they go ahead, they give it, and it is a who you're the winner for both your performance tonight as well as all season. It is Lazy Susan. I mean, we called this shit early. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like Frankie Wonga. After episode one, was there really any other choice? And while ZP did give a competitive run, and I love seeing Mandy Moves kind of come back here, Vibe was never had that same winner energy that Lacey had. Like she was good, she was professional. She just didn't have that wow factor that we were looking for.
I thought Vibe was super competitive earlier on in the season.
I
Like
would agree, yeah.
how her demeanor, I mean, not that she wasn't competitive as it went on,
Mhm.
or through all the episodes. I did feel towards the end, and especially this episode, not saying that she didn't want to win or wasn't trying to win, but she seemed a little like I don't know if I'm going. Not that I don't know if I'm going to win this, but if I don't, it's okay. I made it to the final, and
Mhm.
I thought there was a classiness in her. Again, to finish the narrative from earlier, she's the queen that said, while talking to Michelle, that she loved her day job, she wanted to keep doing it, and she does drag on the weekends or whenever on a couple times a week, but she loves her, and I love that for her. And by that, it's very smart financial sense, because she has a career, she has a legit career in advertising, and she loves that. And I sort of was like, oh, you're not going to win. Like this is over. And then the only time I hesitated was I was like, oof, Lazy is not good in this lip sync. Like this is not her lane.
Forte.
No.
Yeah.
But the right queen won. I can't wait to see Lazy perform in the US. She is an American citizen and Australian citizen. I think her mom or her dad, I don't know which one of it is American. And but she's born and raised in Australia, but has American citizenship. And I can't wait to see her tour the world. And I think she will as we talked about this in previous episode, she's going to be able to take the brand and help elevate it a little bit and in a way that the negativity of Queen Kong on Global All Stars and Hannah probably getting too far on UK versus the world in the top two may have hurt the Down Under perception for their great queens just a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have to unpack that a little bit there. But overall, good overall finale. Again, good overall season. What if you were to rate the season, much as we just did for Thailand, because this is our other one that ended, what would you rate it?
Seven.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 6.57, which is again markedly different. I'd have to go back to the other ones, but it is we're heading in an upward trajectory there for the Stan original.
Well,
Uh
listen, I'm someone who went on IMDb and voted a 9 on Global All Stars because that rating is too low. It's probably an 8, but but we all have our favorites, we all have our perceptions, and that's what I love about the show. And is everyone has their own opinions, and but I will say that almost universally, people think this was a better Down Under season, which is great for them. And
Absolutely. What were you saying? Can you just briefly double click for me? Because we briefly covered Global All Stars when we started this podcast. Why Hannah Kana getting so far was damaging to the brand because she pushed out other fan favorite queens.
well, she beat Marina Summers in that
Yeah.
lip. She
Hmm.
didn't win the lip sync.
Yeah.
Marina won that their sec. She won both lip sync. I mean, it was very clear that like Marina had won it, and then they just like LeGrand Dame had beat Tia, but they
Hmm.
wanted Tia and Hannah in the final. And like, go back and watch that finale episode and those lip syncs, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I mean, the BBC, they do their thing. It's not
Yeah.
WoW, people. It's not WoW. It's the
They
BBC.
weren't going to crown the queen who, when she entered in the workroom, said "Death to all colonizers." I'm stunned by that. Uh, who knew that were a little bit sensitive about
They
that?
weren't going to crown a French queen? No, stop. Are you
Stop
telling
it.
me? No, stop it.
Anyway, but that said, let's briefly, before we talk to the things we do every single week, though, we do need to talk about the interview that did happen with our recently crowned queens for Drag Race España, where a lot of people talked about, hey, when she was wearing the devil outfit for her finale look for the runway, Angelita Perversa, that wasn't, she was playing into a role in more ways than one, because Chloe Vitu and La Nina definitely did not have positive things to say about their experience of working with her.
No, so we should circle back. If you hopefully watched España, which is one of the better seasons of this year, Angelina was always poking and was very negative towards a lot of the queens. She was disruptive. It was sort of crazy how far she made it at some points because at some point you would have thought the producers would have been like, all right, this is too much, go away. And then in the reunion, she really got into it with Maggie and with a couple of the other queens. And so it had turned out, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this that there were sort of two cliques, or there was at least one clique, and one of them is Angelita and Portia, and I don't know who else is in it, but there was like three or four of them who were all friends with Angelita, and they were
Yeah.
sort of apologizing for her or sticking up for her. And after the finale, Portia admitted that Angelita, like, she basically apologized to La Nina and to Chloe and who's the other queen that I'm missing that she was mean to?
Take your pick. Yeah.
It wasn't La Coco. Who's the fourth finalist? Oh, Vampire now La
Vampire.
Belle Vampy.
Yeah, La
Um
Bella Bappy.
La Belle Vampy. And but Angelita had been very hard on Chloe and La Nina, but during the show, so basically what happened is La Nina and Chloe went on a popular, just regular podcast, basically like Call Her Daddy of like Spain. Like it's not necessarily a drag podcast, and talked all about it and basically said, I mean, do you have it in front of you?
Oh, and I'd have to pull it up. But yeah,
Oh,
basically they
but
talked about how if they were invited onto a global all stars of any sort,
or another España All Stars.
yeah, that Chloe would have to decline if she knew that Angelita was there.
And La Nina said she would grin and bear it and deal
Well,
with
she
it.
said that she would do it if she knew that Angelita was there because then she has the strength now to confront her.
Yes.
Which is pretty bold stuff. But yeah, we'll see if they do that because that's the thing where it's like after hearing stories like that, like wow, you really hope she wouldn't get cast again. But then again, that's instant TV drama, so there's that potentiality there. But yeah, it's kind of amazing that didn't come off great in the edit, and oh, it translates into the real world too. Gotcha.
I do want to really pull it up really quick because it's a couple just quick things that they said. Hold on, it's easy to find.
And also, while we're doing that, just brief thank you to everyone who listened to us and dealt with whatever the happening with the audio during the first 20 minutes of the podcast. We've gotten to a good rhythm there, so thank you for dealing with the talk over jankiness that did happen. We'll probably have a disclaimer in the show notes, but still, we appreciate your patience.
Oh, I can't find. I had it before and now I can't find it. But it's pretty bad. And
Yeah.
I will say I don't. It's bad enough that you're like, I don't know if they bring her back. Like it was. I mean, and she went on social media and she was still harping about it. Like after they went on this podcast, I just you wonder like who wants to go pay in Spain to see Angelita perform? Like
Right.
I don't know what her fan base is, but she's
Yeah.
also, by the way, as in her male everyday persona, she's an actor. Like
Mhm.
she's done Spanish television and plays and all this stuff. So maybe she's like, screw it, I don't care if I burn down Angelita.
Yeah,
I'm
that I
interested.
fully believe that.
Yeah.
But that said, I will go ahead. I had briefly was thinking about it before and was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. We always talk about a queen to celebrate for the week, and while we have talked about her and my love of her is certainly well known, you know what? I'm just gonna throw it a bone out there. My pick for queen of the week is gonna be La Nina de Lantro.
Uh,
Not that she needs it, but she just did barely put out a new single. And not that she needs the love, but let's throw her some freaking love over there. She only has 26,000 followers on Instagram. I know we can get those numbers up. And she's just fantastic. She's wonderful. I hope she comes back. I'm almost confident she'll come back because my goodness, did she have a good season. And yeah, I'm just very excited. One of my favorite queens that I discovered this year, full stop, hands down, easily.
love her. She's great. To be honest, if she had won, she would actually have been like the only other queen I would have been happy if they'd won out of the
Hmm.
final four. It's unfortunate she didn't get to be in the final four for the finale, for the live finale, but she's great. My pick this week, I'm gonna break the rule. I'm going to pick a queen in the US who's not well known. I know rules are meant to be broken.
That is true.
Um, but it's a queen that both Evan and I saw slay the house down on Friday night. And her name is Kyra Jete. She is Cornbread Jete's I don't think daughter, I think sister. I think they're
Might just be in the house of Jite.
her house
Yeah.
is Jete. I think they're sisters. She there's this thing that we call the precinct roar. And when you get the precinct roar, I cannot explain. If you come to LA and you come to DragCon, or if you're just randomly in LA and usually on a Friday and Saturday night, there's always some night that has drag in it at precinct. If they love you, the room is deafening. And I've never heard it any other place I've been. I've had great. I could literally spend 45 minutes talking about the queens who I've seen react like whoa, like
Mhm.
when it happens. One, by the way, was Vanjie after she'd been eliminated on season 9. Is it
Mhm.
9? Which one was it? It was
Yeah,
9.
no, it's a season 10, then she was back on 11.
Season 10,
Yeah.
and she had just toured and her eye like bugged out like you would not believe. I've seen Sasha Velour react to it. It is why DTLA drag is like a thing. Anyway, but she killed it in her second number on Friday night. And Kyra actually is the a queen of West Hollywood. She is the queen of Rocco's. She is the number one B there. She's an incredible performer. You should follow her on Insta. It is insane why she has not been on the US season yet. I'm not really sure why. Although they've been doing as well, we'll tease it in a second. But they've been making some interesting casting choices on the US the past couple seasons. Um,
Hmm.
and maybe she's too strong an LA queen for them to put on, which is true. I mean, they've had Sasha win. They've had a lot of local Queens win All Stars. I get it. They're like trying to spread whatever.
Hmm.
But she's freaking great. You should follow her. And if she ever gets on the show, I don't think she'd ever win, but she'd make it far, and she'd kill every lip sync she did.
Yeah. And I think it would be, I mean, this is the thing where you don't want it to cast just on lip sync stuff alone. Otherwise, Queen Tyra that I picked last week would easily just destroy all the Philippines. But she definitely had that it factor. And that's like, again, that we'll always see how that translates because at Precinct during one of those brunches is when I saw Hershey Courgette and I followed her instantly. And I'm just like, this queen has it. She has it. And then was first out on her season. But like, truly, like, was in the moment stunning and incredible. I'm like, oh my God, you are a performer. So it's just like, you never know in some of those situations, though. But I'm hoping for her. I can confirm because I was there too with my own eyeballs. Kyra just destroyed the freaking stage. I'm very excited to see what happens with her, and I'm excited that all of you are sticking with us through all this time here. 2 more seasons in the bank, ready to go. We now just have Canada left, but do not worry. As the year heads out, we still have some fun stuff laid out for you, including our take on the Meet the Queens of all our season 17 girlies. We're going to have that for you next week, as well as just a recap at the end of the year of all of our favorite moments from all of the 2024 seasons that we saw this year, which there's a lot. We actually have too many. But we'll go through it season episode by episode. But truly, as always, if you have any feedback for us, please let us know at worldwidetpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, where you will see not only a bunch of clips and a bunch of other fun things as well, but also you can find out where to find our Queens of the Week every single week. But as always, thank you, Greg, for everything you've done to help make this podcast possible. It's been an absolute blast.
It's been a blast. Everyone have a wonderful holiday break. We actually will be talking to you next week before New Year's, but enjoy the week and catch up on a season that you may not have watched yet.
Absolutely. And that's why I need to then remind self that whatever Pangina's closing line is, make sure you are your true inner self and follow your light and who you are, or I don't know what the fuck it was. But
Was that Pangina or Alyssa Edwards?
listeners of the podcast, applaud yourself. Truly. That's all I can say. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.